Well, welcome back to the program. Good morning, and please join me in welcoming our managing editor of Korea Broadcasting Network News, my very good friend, Mr. Emil Lee. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Great. Good morning, Sock. Good morning, listeners. Good to be back.
It's always nice to see you in the morning on a Thursday.
Yes.
What happened yesterday at Council of Ministers press briefing?
So, surprisingly, we had the Minister of Education there. So, we had the Minister of Education, Romy, the Prime Minister, and the Ministry of VSA. And the Ministry of Education, I haven't seen her for months and months and months. And the funny thing is, she didn't even come to make a statement. She was available for questions, so I asked her some questions. But school's opening soon. I don't know. I find it interesting. Not even a sort of a hey, school's opening. We're good luck, students. Something. So I don't know. I find it fascinating. So, but um, the stuff that they covered in their openings, things like I'll go quick. So Vromi, they're finishing their bidding for the district cleanup,
Hmm.
um, and which is a pet peeve of mine. I see garbage off the road, like they clean up just like the first 2 feet off the road, but
Yeah.
if you look in the bush, there's garbage. Um, they still don't charge, fines for people that are littering. In the area where I am, I see, they clean it, and a week later, it's full of garbage again. So, as long as you don't start dealing with people's behaviors and you know throwing garbage out the window. I mean, the idea is just so foreign to me that you just take something and chuck it out your window. So,
It's unbelievable.
yeah. Hurricane cleanup. They're looking at tagging wrecked cars for removal. So some warnings about that. Um, they're looking at a drainage study for Coal Bay for the flooding in the Coal Bay area. Storm pumps. One of them's back up in operation. The second one's in process. And Dutch Quarter. They're looking to connect sewage lines. So pretty standard stuff. VSA was the minister, his first press conference. That's Claret Connor. So he was head of the recovery fund, the Irma Recovery Fund, and he's just taken on the position of VSA now. He used to be a minister before. I can't remember which portfolio, maybe
Connor,
Romy or something.
no,
Yeah,
no,
so
no.
he,
Wasn't he Tiot at one point? I think
yeah,
he
I
was
can't
T. I
remember.
think he was Tiot.
Yeah,
I think it was
I don't.
Tiot way back. I remember going to his office way back in the day, and I want to say it was for a Heineken a regatta
Okay,
related thing, which leads me to believe that would have been Tiot.
okay.
Um,
But he talked about his priorities: the general health insurance, SFV ordinance, the budget debate they're preparing. Remember, it's so funny because when I do talk to some of the civil servants now, a lot of them say, "Oh, we're busy because we're answering questions for the budget debate," and they're sort of frustrated because they say opposition. It looks like they just put the budget into like Chat GPT or something and gave them like so many questions that the ministry is now in the process of answering. So
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're frustrated because they feel like they didn't really put the thought into the budget. But to be honest, if you ever see the budget, it's not legible. It makes no sense. There, like you as a business person would say, this is completely useless. As a management tool, right? Remember, a budget should be about how you manage your expenditures. And also, he's working on the hospital mental health project. The Prime Minister came in talking about how. So this was interesting. He was actually addressing litter. So
Mhm.
he was saying, guys, we need to do better. Folks, we need to do better. There's too much garbage on the streets. Again, sort of this plea for better behavior. So he's kind of all over the place. He was talking about how he was happy that they had an earthquake in Colombia. They're still digging out from that now, but that all the patients that were in Colombia were safe. So it's interesting. He's kind of all over the place. So
And yeah, a mess. That's all I could say.
So then let's get into my question. Again, I was the only journalist there. To be honest, I'm kind of enjoying that that I'm the only reporter there. So I started with the Ministry of Romy. I was approached by someone in Indigo Bay
Mhm,
who there's a number of villas that have been built years ago,
mhm,
and somebody is developing in front of them a fairly large project,
mhm,
and they have excavated. So in other words, they've dug into the ground to the point that these houses now are moving, and their foundations are cracking, walls are cracking. They've had to empty swimming pools to make sure that there's no weight there, and so they're besides themselves. They don't know what to do. So they actually sent me some documents, and one of the things that I found that was interesting is in the document it says you can excavate 1 to 4 meters. And I could see, because I understand construction.
mhm.
I do some construction projects. They've excavated beyond that 4 meters. So I asked the Ministry of Rome. I said, "Look, you issued a civil works permit. You put criteria to the permit, but yet you didn't enforce it. You didn't have inspectors check it. These people, I think they tried to call Vromi. They tried to get some help. In the end, they had to go to court." And so my point to him is, look, as a ministry, your job is to protect the public interests. That's why you have this permitting process. They're supposed to review and make sure that, you know, that the buildings are safe. In other words, they're up to code for hurricanes and for earthquakes, so that the people who use those buildings are safe, but also to safeguard the interests of the community and the neighbors. And he said, look, for sure, we have a problem with enforcement. And actually, I think that's one of St. Martin's biggest problems.
Everywhere.
Yeah,
Pick a ministry.
right. I mean, we were talking about litter, about garbage on the streets, right? If you never find people, then that behavior is not going to change. I mean, you go to St. Bart's and stuff, they don't have guys all over the roads cleaning the sides of the roads. People just don't throw the garbage out the window. Stop throwing garbage out the window, right? So their whole issue is very much about poor enforcement, and actually we'll even come back to that because we talked about traffic afterwards. So indeed, he's like, okay, I'm not really familiar with the situation. I think they are because I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, and he'll come back. But it really is a shame that the failure of government.
He's not familiar with the trash situation.
No,
He's
no, no.
not
I'm talking.
or
Oh, yeah,
and he's not familiar with that our inability to enforce regulations from a safety perspective.
right.
You're not familiar with it. How could this be?
Or this particular case, he. I can understand that he might not know every issue that's happening, but
Well, you know what? You know what I have to say to that. You
Mhm.
know, oh my, this. That's what I have to say.
Oh, we're doing sound effects now. Cool. I want a
Oh,
buzzer too. Yes.
oh.
So, but the frustrating thing is, and we've seen this in various ways. I mean, look, you are dealing with the noise issue next door, right?
Hmm?
So an issue that should be a regulatory issue, it should be something that the government apparatus should be safeguarding the interests of the citizens, right? So now these people have to go to court. They have to hire engineers. They have to hire surveyors. So there's a lot of expense that these houses are going to incur to defend their interests that they wouldn't have had to spend if the ministry had done their job in terms of enforcing the compliance that the rules, the guidelines that they laid out in their permit. So I asked him, really, what are you going to do to step in to try and make this right? Clearly, if they've over excavated, they violated the permit. I do think it's your responsibility to help find a solution. So I got sort of we'll look into it issue, but I don't think this is an issue that I'm going to let go, because it's just not fair to the residents who are there. So yeah.
Let me do this. It is 8:30.
Mhm.
Let me take a quick commercial break, and we will we will be right back. So stick around. Here's everything that's happening tonight. Well, welcome back to the program. Glad you're with us. St. Martin Insights news that matters to you. Emil Lee is with us this morning. Good morning, sir. Welcome back.
Thanks.
So, let's pick up where we left off. Where do we go? Where do we go next?
Ask the Minister of Romy about traffic, right? Because we know high season's coming. We know that there's going to be, at least as many cruise ships as there were last year, and we know last year that the traffic was unbearable. So now's the time to put measures in place. If you have road maintenance to do it now. Don't wait for high season to start filling holes, right? We should be when season starts, we
We
should be
should
ready.
We should be doing the work, the repairs now to the road
Exactly.
network. We should be cleaning now everywhere, all the trash, and we should be fixing the road network the right way, not with this cold patch garbage and doing it wrong.
And apparently they're waiting for shipments of asphalt.
Oh
So,
yeah.
so yeah, so it's a little
We have excuses
concerning.
for everything.
Yeah. So, and again, they talk about we need to change behavior, right? So I'm noticing this theme of government saying, we need to do better as a people, right? But again, and I brought this up to him. I said, lack of enforcement without you could use carrot or stick measures, right? But there's no real carrots to say, don't throw garbage out your window and drive like a kind human being, right? There's no carrots for that. You either drive nicely or you drive like an idiot. And so then you need enforcement. If you're doing wheelies in the middle of traffic, if you aren't driving correctly, you need to find people.
Someone sent this to me on Instagram the other day, and it was taken on top of Colbay Hill. Was a young man on his scooter
Mm-hmm.
of some sort of motor vehicle, scooter type vehicle, right? Standing on the seat as he's driving on top of Colbay Hill, like balancing, like on a tightrope. And I'm like, are you? And when you go splat on the road, who's going to have to pay for this mess, right?
If you don't have insurance, yeah.
I just unbelievable. I'm like, this is, what? It's plain stupidity. And there's nothing cool about it. There's nothing exciting about it. There's nothing that, he's talented because he can do that. No, he's dumb because he can do that in traffic.
If I saw my son or daughter doing something remotely close to that, you better believe I would take their scooter away from them.
I do more than take their scooter away from them.
Yeah, yeah.
I take everything away from them. They'd be living in their room, grounded. What else? What else?
So I said, look, eventually you have to look at expanding the road network. I mean, there's been discussions about connecting from the end of the Causeway Bridge on the Colbay side over the hill, right?
That would help.
That would help a lot because right now, if you come, let's say, from the airport towards Don Beach, you either have to go all the way around the French side, all the way around the Dutch side. So you're adding to all of the traffic, right? You're going over Colbay Hill. So find another way.
To get over there.
And I think the French would probably contribute for their part of it if it came over onto the French side. So, and the frustrating thing is, he says, well, the reports we've gotten from UNOPS, again, this is the one who gave commentary on whether Theo served enough time in jail before he could be released early, right? So I don't know why they are like the advisory body for everything. Okay, but fine. Okay, UNOPS has said, look, you need to utilize your existing network better before you look at expanding your road network. And to me, that just blows my mind because the road network, I know you're going to have issues with land. You might have to expropriate from some people. I know that was the issue from the back of St. Peter's over to Dutch Quarter. I think there's one family holding it up. So it's going to take you years to put in that link over the hill. So start now. I don't know why this we're going to wait and see kind of approach. It's the only sort of structural solution I see.
Well, listen, we need to be doing three things simultaneously. We need to be fixing the roads properly that we have. We need to be planning for what the next set of road network expansion is going to be, and we need to be cleaning now during low season. And these are the three things we need to do.
And public transportation, a true public transportation network.
We'll add that 4.
Yeah.
And that's part of planning, right?
Yes.
Planning the road network and the transportation system.
Yeah.
So we need to be doing all of these things now, every year, all the time.
Yeah, I agree.
This is not rocket science.
So
it's your business.
So again, the time to prepare for high season, you know it's going to come, and schools haven't started yet, and so once you have
School starts next week.
right, so once you have schools back in session, and then we hit high season, you know we're going to have traffic problems. So get in front of the problem now, start anticipating the problems now, and look for solutions. So education was there. I did ask her. I said, we haven't seen her for months and months. So the FBE exams, the exams from the schools were earlier this year. They had reports out saying that the results were very worrisome. And I said, okay, great. You have a report saying that things are not what they should be, that the products coming out of the school system is poor. She had even recounted previously about how when she worked at UTS, she was getting applications from people who couldn't even send proper emails or job application letters with correct spelling and grammar. And that she said, look, again, frustrating. She said there's been 5 decades of habits and norms, and that she doesn't believe that you can change this in 4 years. That it's unrealistic to expect that we're going to fix the education system in 4 years, right? So, again, that's very frustrating, right? That the most important thing in terms of our public prospering is having the proper education to
it's the
participate.
Basis. That's basis for everything.
For everything, right. That goes back to compliance. That goes back to behavior, right? If you educate the children well, like my son would never think about throwing anything out the window. He's just been educated that.
Just don't do that. It's just wrong.
Exactly. So frustrating. I really thought the answer was a cop-out answer, The Prime Minister asked him about GB, the purchase of the new generators, and he said, indeed, the generators are 25 to 30 years old. We talk about our electricity prices. Can you imagine what the cost of operating a 25-year-old vehicle is compared to running a new vehicle today, right?
Yes.
The fuel efficiency, it's dramatically different. So if you want to help bring down fuel energy costs, operate more efficient machines. So
adopt renewable energy plants.
Renewable energy. So he said basically they had $42 million from the Dutch to buy the generators, but by the time they got around to it, the generator prices have increased. So they need another $28 million, which...
So we're up by what, 60%? 50%?
Well, it's for a combination of things. So number one, to finance the increase in the generator costs, but they also want to build a fuel farm. So right now, the only fuel tanks belong to Seoul, so they want to have their own fuel farm, which I guess they believe will help them to purchase fuel at a lower cost, alternative energy, and also to prepare the power plant to receive the new generators. So again, he says that they're gone to a consortium with the bank, GB Financing, and they say it's almost ready. So hopefully they'll pull the trigger on that.
They must need a letter of credit from the bank, I'm sure.
Yes. But I don't know how they get a loan. Honestly, GB, they haven't had audited financials since.
It's because the government's going to. It's because the government's going to back it. That's why it's going to be based by the full faith and credit of the Dutch government.
Well, the
St. Martin government, not so the full faith and credit of this government. I'm a little concerned.
But still, they'll take a government guarantee.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, it's another example of just plain amazing that here we are. How many years later now, and we still don't have the new generators
ordered.
Remember,
they take another year to 2 to build.
Because if we had ordered them when we were supposed to have ordered them, they'd be coming like any day now.
Right. So
this is just plain sad.
Yes.
Emil, I don't know what else to say. Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks for being here.
And, of course, St. Martin Insights news that matters to you. We do it again next Thursday with Emil Lee. We'll be right back after these messages. Marine and tropical weather update on the way. Just a minute or two.